Hello, I am Remy. Every week I make a song and then I make a video explaining how I made that song, what I think you can learn from it. This week I wanted to structure the video around 4 concepts that I have identified as being perhaps the most important things that I pay attention to when I'm making a pop track. Key points that I don't think are talked about enough that make those few elements that you are putting into the track actually work together and create a nice, big, powerful sound. The 2 things that you kind of always have at odds when you're making pop music is I want to grow the track, I want it to evolve forward, I want it to feel bigger, and I don't want to stuff it, I don't want it to feel overwhelming, I don't want it to feel messy. And I think all of these pillars kind of work towards helping that. They will not be technical. I won't be talking about how to wire your mic, what EQ to use on what and when, how to compress. I think a lot of producers get caught up in all this technical stuff, thinking that if I learn everything, what every single button on the DAW does, I will be a great producer, and a DAW user does not a good producer make. You can know absolutely everything about the DAW and still make terrible music. You can stumble your way through it the whole time and make amazing songs. Obviously, fluidity on the #1 tool that you're using to make music is very useful. I do recommend it, but if that's what you're looking for, crack open the manual or go to one of many YouTube videos that talk about that. Here I wanted to talk about something a little more holistic. A giant disclaimer: the best way to learn how to make a shiny, beautiful, exciting pop song is to make a ton of shitty, disgusting, muddy pop songs first. That is something that I have done and I cannot recommend it highly enough. So if you haven't tried that, go do that first or after watching this video. Now, without further ado, let's give a listen to this week's song. Mind you, if you don't want to listen to the song, you can totally skip ahead. The video will still probably make sense, but it'll be good to have the context of what it is that we're talking about today.
Wish you well, wish you well, wish you well. Wish I could give you hell, but you won't see me calling. I thought I might have heard you say that you were sorry, huh? Guess not. Now I watch the TV, wishing I was with you. Look around the sofa, some have said I got an issue. Got me sad and horny, always reaching for the tissues. But when my homegirl asks me, I pretend that I don't miss you. It's been a bad situation. The crux of sexual frustration. The sense of stocking's my debasement. Is that my bra in your basement? Do you ever think about me like I think about you? Guess not, I guess not, I guess not. Do you ever fantasize about it? Come back for us too. Why not, I mean maybe. Walk into the same bar, look what have it, I look good. Get too reminiscent about the sex on your Tacoba's hood. Take me back to yours and say that I don't think we should, but then we do it anyway. Do you, or is it just me, just me, just me, just me? Do you, or is it just me, just me, just me, just me? I've been high all day, high all day, high all day. I try to fade away, but I still come back down. Play loud music just to drown out the sound. Now everybody everywhere's been stressing and I just can't care. News guy said a virus or a new war, didn't really care. I'm in my own world where it's crying every day and coming every night, and I'm wishing I was by your side. And it's been hella lonely, cause honestly I bet you only think about me when you're homies. Wanna get into my parties. Do you ever think about me like I think about you? Guess not, I guess not, I guess not. Do you ever fantasize about it? Come back for us too. Why not, I mean maybe. Walk into the same bar, look what have it, I look good. Get too reminiscent about the sex on your Tacoba's hood. Take me back to yours and say that I don't think we should, but then we do it anyway. Think about you, hey. Do you ever fantasize about a comeback verse 2?
That was a song. It's called Do You / Just Me. It's on SoundCloud. It's here on YouTube as well. If you enjoyed it, I would appreciate a little like or whatever you can do internetly to support it. Let's get into these 4 pillars that are the reason you clicked on this video. Pillar number 1, textural shifts drive it forward. The best pop songs feel like this completely realized story with like a beginning and a middle and an end. And textural shifts are the plot, basically. What do I mean by textural shifts? Kind of any new component that gets added or taken away. I would kind of define the texture as like how the frequency spectrum is being taken up. You can have the whole thing kind of very evenly filled out. You could have like a lot of like bulk in the bass and up top, but not a lot in the middle. Different frequency pockets can be occupied in different ways. And as the song goes on, the listener wants it to change how you're occupying that frequency spectrum. When these subtle changes come in that create like a shift in the texture, that is the bread and butter of we're going somewhere. And I think it's important that these textural shifts happen a little more often than you think they need to. There's no hard and fast rule. I'm not going to sit here and tell you like every 8 bars or whatever. That being said, every 8 bars is a good place to start. Just check in with yourself, you know, just like listen to it, and every 4 bars, ask yourself if you feel like you've lost interest. And if you have, it might be time for something to change, and it doesn't have to be big. Going to our example song, we start with the intro, which is literally just kick, snare, bass. The verse comes in, obviously with the vocal. That's like a pretty big textural change, but also hi-hats. Hi-hats are coming in, they're taking up a lot of space that was not previously occupied at all. It's a high register. And then halfway through the verse, 3 things happen that make it feel fuller. 1, the hi-hats get a little bit busier. 2, we add this tiny little whoop that you'll hear in a minute. And 3, we add some synth keys. So I'm gonna go ahead and play first verse.
And I thought I might have heard you say that you were sorry, huh?
Guess not.
Now I watch the TV, wishing I was with you. Liquor on the sofa, someone said I got an issue. Got me sad and horny, always reaching for the tissues. But when my homegirl asks me, I pretend that I don't miss you.
Obviously, then we have a huge textural shift into the pre-chorus, right? Like literally everything changes. Our kick pattern changes, our hi-hats all but go away, and our bass pattern changes. So it gets a lot lighter and it gets a lot darker. We lose a lot of high-end stuff, right? The hi-hats are now barely there. The vocal is actually taking up a lower register too. My situation. So that's a really dramatic one. Much like into the chorus, obviously we have a big textural shift. Like again, everything changes. But something happens halfway through the chorus that's a lot more subtle, but I think equally important. It's the big changes we all know. We all know that there's a verse and we all know that there's a chorus, but the subtle ones are what really makes it feel like finessed. So here we have this synth that's mimicking the bass line just like a couple octaves higher. And then it comes down to do an octave below what it was doing. It makes it feel a little bit less big and bombastic, but you're still like maintaining the essence of the chorus, right? It's a subtle but very important change. And it just breathes like some fresh air into like halfway through. It's a long chorus, you know? So you need something to kind of inject some energy into it partway through.
Do you ever think about me like I think about you? Guess not, guess not, guess not. Do you ever fantasize about a comeback verse 2? Why not me, maybe? Walking to the same bar, look what have it, I look good. Got too reminiscent about the sex on your Tacoma was hurt.
And then we go into the hook, which is kind of a very similar situation, right? The hook needs to feel new. Obviously, we have to keep the energy of the chorus, but if anything, we want to like amp it up a little bit. So what do? We bring it back up an octave and we add just the same synth on the other side. It's literally just louder. And this is what we get.
I don't think we should, but then we do it anyway. Or is it just me, just me, just me, just me?
Now we go into verse 2 and we have a big textural change, which is we're filtering out the low end of the bass for a little bit. And we're kind of nixing these drums for this first several beats. So that's a big shift. Obviously it's there for dramatic effect. Coming off of like the first hook, it's like, phew, like you're kind of bringing the adrenaline down.
Just me, just me, just me, just me. I've been high all day, high all day, high all day. I'm trying to fade away, but I still come back down.
And here you can see the automation of that cutoff frequency on the filter. Now, second half of verse 2, what I did not do was add this synth back in that came in the second half of verse 1. The reason being the texture here, there's already a pretty important textural shift. So that didn't need to happen. In fact, it was a little intrusive considering the lead vocal is now harmonized. So that's also a source from which texture can come and evolve. We come from having like the vocal just dubbed straight up to having like a whole other like melodic line happening. And that just makes like the vocals feel bigger.
Play loud music just to drown out the sound. Now everybody everywhere has been stressing and I just can't care. News guy said a virus or a new war didn't really care. I'm in my own world where it's crying every day and coming every night, and I wishing I was by your side.
And then even halfway through verse 2, we have this synth that comes in. It kind of has a dual purpose. One is to create like a textural shift. The other is as a transitional element. That is the next pillar. So pillar number 2, transitions, the best transitions are the ones you see coming. I talk about it every single video and I will not get tired of talking about it. Transitions are like the most important thing. They're the salt. They're the salt on your production. If you don't care for and nurture the transitions from section to section, you're cooking with no salt. Seriously, until I add transitions into my tracks, they feel like demos. It feels like a demo before I add the transitions, and it feels like a song when I do. So let's look at the transitions. First, these keys that have that auto filter and it's being like opened up, right? It's a low pass and we're letting it in more and more. That kind of acts as a transitional element, right? This is a bit of a longer one that I feel like it does help it so that when you get into the pre-chorus, you're like, oh, that's what I've been waiting for. You know, like we kind of built it up. We're getting more and more like high frequencies. This is kind of, it's a busy synth, you know, it like takes up a lot of space. So by the time we get to the pre-chorus, we're like, yes, change. Like I was hoping this would happen. So it's kind of warning you that like it's building things up. And then obviously the pre-chorus is super stripped back. It's just like the bass basically. And so it kind of comes as a relief. So here is halfway through verse 1 into pre-chorus.
Now I watch the TV, wishing I was with you. Look around the sofa, someone said I got an issue. Got me sad and horny, always reaching for the tissues. But when my homegirl asks me, I pretend that I don't miss you. It's been a bad situation.
Next transition, out of pre-chorus and into chorus. Like I said, the transitions are so important. It'll basically be like a transition for every section change. This one is really straightforward, but I think one of the most effective. Literally just get rid of the drums. I do it on almost every song. It's really just like the perfect little silence in the context of sound. Silence can be like so powerful, so loud. Just nixing these drums a little bit before and you're like, it's about to go down. And then when the chorus comes, you're like, oh, it's going down. This is that. And okay, yeah, obviously there's like a crash on the downbeat. So it's like, oh my God, it's gonna go down. And then, whoa, it really went down. We have a crash and everything's happening. Here is from pre-chorus into chorus.
The sense of stockings, my basement. Is that my bra in your basement? Do you ever think about me like I think about you?
Here we have an example of a much more subtle transition. This one's very not in your face, but I think the not in your face ones are just as important to like pay attention to and care for. Here we're going from chorus to hook, and we don't have a lot of textural changes. I mean, we did bring this synth back up, as we mentioned earlier, but we need to like create a little separation between them. It needs to feel like something changed. This one is really tiny because we want to maintain the energy, right? We're not killing it entirely and we're not bringing it up from zero. This is still like, it's going from powerful to powerful. So something subtle is of the essence. And the only thing that happened here is just like this hi-hat pattern changes just slightly. So normally we would just have these two hats like this. And now we have a few more hats that are going to make it feel a little different. That may seem almost imperceptible, but in the context of everything, this is what it sounds like.
And we do it anyway.
Next, we have this intro to verse 2, which we talked about earlier. Transitions are all about payoff, right? Like they are more exciting when you know that they're going to happen. Like think about when you go to a concert, the excitement you feel when you like know that the chorus of the song that everybody knows is going to come and everyone's going to sing it together. That anticipation, that's what you should be feeling with like a really big dramatic transition. So this is like a huge one. If you think about it, the transition is actually like this whole section. Suspension of the bass, the kick disappears and starts doing these weird little noises until it comes back. Obviously, something drastic has just happened. Like literally the world has kind of just come to an end. But now we need a way for the world to come back. Obviously, we started it with a crash here. And then we have these little like glitchy kicks popping about at a much higher register, so they're not quite landed. And also we have filtered out the low frequencies of that kick as well as the low frequencies of the bass. So like there's nothing bassy happening. We're just like suspended in the air. And then it's little, but it's important. We have this little reverse kick here that leads us back into our regular pattern. So this is what that whole section sounds like.
Just me, just me, just me, just me. I've been high all day, high all day, high all day. I try to fade away, but I still come back down.
Okay, this one I find really quite fun. This is from pre-chorus number 2 into chorus number 2 as well. More on the surface, we've had this like synth kind of coming in. We pause, we disrupt the usual pattern of it, and now we just have like a much fuller chord kind of coming in, taking up a ton of space. That's a big part of it, of course. But more subtly, there's something going on in the bass that's really fun. It comes in halfway into this synth and glides down. Now, another thing you would know about me if you've seen any of my videos, I'm obsessed with basses that glide. I love a portamento on the bass line. I don't see why anyone would make a song without it. We had to get a little bit crafty because there already was some glide on this bass. You can listen here, but it's very short. And here, transitioning into the chorus, I wanted something that would be a little more noteworthy, a little more dramatic. So what do? We automate. You'll notice I added via the configure here on Serum the porta time of the patch, and here it is quite literally automated to be a little bit higher. It doesn't look like much, but it is a lot. Here is that part of the bass with that glide into the chorus. In the context of the whole track, here is that entire transition.
Wanna get into my parties.
Versus if like this wasn't automated up, you'd barely hear the glide.
Get into my parties.
It's set up, but it is that extra sauce. And lastly, of the ones I actually feel like talking about, we have this transition from the bridge into the chorus. These chops are paving the way. It's like, oh, things are changing, something's about to happen. So like literally in the vocals, we have a disruption of the pattern and then a little, huh? And obviously the huh is like the thing that is like it's like the portal into the chorus again. There, what we basically did was, I say we, like I didn't produce this on my own. When I say we, I mean me. I just refer to myself as multiple people. I don't know why I do that. Anyways, yeah, we left like kind of complete silence. I wanted this to just kind of feel like it's cutting through. Like it's just like all of a sudden it's in your face. It's the only thing that exists. And then like when the chorus comes in, it's like all these things are coming back and hitting you in the face at the same time. It's really just about, it's more about what's not there than it is about what is there. So what is not there? What is not there is everything. Obviously like the percussion, we like omit the last hit of the snare. There's nothing happening on the kick. There's just like this downbeat here. We even have some delay that's been like shushed. So here's the vocals of that transition, and then we'll play the whole thing.
Just me, just me, just me.
And now with everything together.
Just me, just me, just me, just me, just me, just me, just me. Do you ever think about me like I think about you?
That's enough of pillar number 2. On to pillar number 3, my personal favorite, the one I deem perhaps most important and most underrated. Don't stack it up, spread it out. If you're going to introduce a new element into the track to make it feel bigger, to make it grow, it's not just about stacking it on top of whatever was there before. It's about making sure you spread it out versus what you had previously. And I know you're wondering, spread out across what? 2 things, my friends: frequency and time. So if I'm introducing a new element, it can either occupy a new frequency pocket that didn't exist previously. For example, if I didn't have hi-hats, now I can add hi-hats. And if I didn't have hi-hats, I probably didn't have anything occupying this super high sizzle range of this frequency spectrum. Hi-hats are kind of the only thing that do that for the most part. If there wasn't a bass line before, I can introduce a bass line. Or time, adding something in silence where nothing was occupying that space, or ideally both together. For example, going from part 1 of verse 1 into part 2 of verse 1 is a good example of that. We add hi-hat hits where there were previously no hi-hat hits. There, we added something that was spread out across time, not necessarily frequency. It was the same frequency range that was already being occupied by the exact same hi-hats. But these new hits are in little pockets that were not being taken up by the hi-hats before. They actually weren't even being taken up by the kick or snare, which are pretty sparse. So that's going to create a little more of a sense of fullness. Also, we added this whoop, and notice that this whoop is happening when like nothing else is happening. So caring for where things are introduced, making sure that they're not taking up a space that was already being taken up, is going to make it so that those things that you add actually drive a sense of fullness and not just messiness. Because if you're adding things where there was already things, you just create a mess. If you add things where there wasn't anything, you've grown the track and it feels a little bit bigger and a little bit fuller. Another more interesting example is the synth in the chorus. This guy is doing the exact same as the bass line. So time-wise, it's not spread out, but frequency-wise, it's a couple of octaves higher. So it's taking up a frequency pocket that wasn't occupied by anything else. Notice that the only other things happening in that moment are the bass, which is substantially lower, and the drums, which are either lower or higher depending on what element it is. As insignificant as it is enough to make the chorus feel just substantially bigger than the verse, which is essentially the same. The only 2 things that are differentiating this verse and this chorus are the hats being more filled out and the synth. So here's a side-by-side of the verse and the chorus. Versus chorus. Another example, those keys in the second pre-chorus. This is an instance where we're spreading both across frequency spectrum and time. So I wanted this pre-chorus to feel a little bigger than the first one. The first one is super stripped back. You want to keep the track moving forward. You want this sensation of progression. As I may or may not have mentioned, these are filtered out with a high pass. So they're really taking up a higher register than anything else that's happening. This is a really like full synth with a lot of high end, very bright. And this is a section where we didn't really have much in the way of higher frequencies. The hi-hat is doing like 1 hit every bar. It's really nothing huge. So filling out that high space is going to take care of something that wasn't covered already. But also time-wise, the rhythm of this synth is syncopating against the drum pattern, creates a sense of fullness without making it feel messy or chaotic. I'm going to play just these synth keys and the drums together. Another example of spreading out across time was this synth situation. So this actually is a Serum preset that actually comes with this pretty sick modulation. The LFOs are like creating this rhythmic pattern within the keys. So it's called color chords. I'm gonna pull up the exact like original Serum patch, and you can see like there's all these LFOs are doing like super fun things. This is like a fun little pitch bend happening, and then this stutter. All of that together makes this, which I was like, oh my God, that is so fun. That's so sexy. The problem was I wanted to layer this over the hook where we have the vocal hook. Do you, or is it just me? And there was a bit of a like overload. Like it sounded good, but they were definitely stepping on each other's toes. Because we have this little pitch bend happening. And this is happening at the same time as we're hearing to you. So it doesn't quite hit as well. Here you can see this like pitch bend now happens faster. So do you hits here. So that pitch bend is now happening at a time when nothing else is happening. And then it's actually something fun instead of something distracting and overwhelming that takes protagonism away from the vocal. Another thing that was crucial was creating a copy of this that didn't have that initial glide, because I did want to have this chord happening here. But I didn't want it to glide up because it was just a little too much. So I created just a new track with that same synth, but killing this automation. So this now doesn't direct to anything. It's bypassing the main tuning. So here's just vocals and that synth, the way it was originally. And then I'll show you what we did to kind of address the situation.
Do you, or is it just me, just me, just me, just me?
And now we'll hear those modulations a little bit dialed in.
Do you, or is it just me, just me, just me, just me?
One more example of my little don't stack it up, spread it out mantra is filtering. I do think for the most part, I try to be a little bit just intentional about what elements I'm even choosing to begin with. But it's also nice to have this consistency throughout the song of like kind of recycling the same sound, but in different ways. So filtering is a fun way to take a sound that you like already have, use it in a part of the song where maybe its frequency spectrum is intrusive to some other component that you have, but with filtering, you can kind of carve out the part that's in the way and recycle that sound. It feels familiar yet fresh at the same time, which is just one of the like nicest feelings that you can get from a sound, especially in like pop music. Familiar yet fresh is like kind of the gold standard, you know, that's like kind of what you're always going for. And there's a few instances of that in this track. Firstly, actually happening directly on that same, the same synth keys that we just talked about. Because the first time that they come in, if you'll remember, is halfway through verse 1. And I'd already introduced those keys like for the hook, and I was like, maybe they can work here, you know? And it can be a good little warm up so that when they come in later, they feel a little bit more familiar. The problem is, you heard them. They're shiny as hell. They're gonna get in the way of most vocal lines. It's not a big issue in the hook because the lyrics are so hooky. Like it's just like, do you? Like not a lot is happening. But in the verse, we have words, you know, we have text. And this is really kind of, it's less of a rhythmic vocal line and it's more of a melodic one. So the way to have it not be as big of a problem is just to filter it. In this instance, I figured I'd have it kind of come up from underneath you. So we used a low pass, kind of gradually let in that higher stuff. So this is what that filtering automation looks like.
Now I watch the TV, wishing I was with you. Look around the sofa, some have said I got an issue. Got me sad and horny, always reaching for the tissues. But when my homegirl asks me, I pretend that I don't miss you.
And another instance of that more strategic filtering is on the exact same keys, except this is like the no glide version. And here we did like the exact opposite, basically. Here I wanted it to kind of come in as a high end element. So these are actually the keys that we already talked about in the context of that pre-chorus. Thing is, them just kind of coming in dry on the pre-chorus, it kind of felt a little whipped out of my ass, if that makes sense. It's kind of like, where did they come from? Why are they here? I wanted to smooth the transition over a little bit. So I wanted it to come in a little earlier, starting partway through the verse. I wanted it to be subtle, to be kind of sly. So what do? We automate the cutoff of the filter, and this time it's a high pass. So it's really just kind of starting to fill up this high end, and then we're bringing that cutoff down so that it's filling more and more and more and more. And then once it actually comes in the pre-chorus, it's not so jarring. So this is from halfway through verse 2 into the pre-chorus.
Everybody everywhere's been stressing and I just can't care. News guy said a virus or a new war, didn't really care. I'm in my own world where it's crying every day and coming every night, and I'm wishing I was by your side. And it's been hella lonely.
Filtering can be like your friend if you want to like smooth the transition over, you want something to come in sooner, but you're like, well, this isn't really the kind of element that is gonna make sense in this section. It's gonna step all over the other stuff. Filtering can help get it out of the way. And finally, pillar number 4, only fill once familiar. This one's a little more loosey-goosey. It's not like a hard and fast rule. None of them are, but this is perhaps the most take with a grain of salt thing. In general, our ear is gonna be a little more comfortable with a really full and busy track if I'm already familiar with all the previous elements. It's like if you walk into a room and it like reeks of somebody's cologne, after like 20 minutes, you don't really smell it that much. It's kind of like that. After a while of having heard the same thing, once that old thing feels familiar, adding something new isn't as like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. Now the new thing is what my ear is going to latch onto, and it's not going to be as distracted by the old thing. A few examples. Once you're hitting that last chorus and you want it to feel big and explosive, you can kind of get away with a little bit more fullness, precisely because all of these elements are now familiar to the listener. In the second half of that last chorus, we're introducing this synth, which is the same synth that's doing this. It's just in separate tracks because they're mono so that they have glide. And yes, I know you can have glide even though it's poly on Serum. I'm newer to Serum, and I'm not gonna lie, the concept of that scares me because I don't know how it's gliding. I'd rather just have it in separate tracks. But that's just me and my neuroses. But yeah, this is the same sound as the synth over here. But it's doing this like new melody. But we're so familiar with this one, right? This has been the baseline the entire song, and it's been added to pretty much every chorus. So we're very familiar with the sound and we're coming right off it. So adding this in doesn't feel like as insane anymore. And it has the added benefit that like the melody of the synth is very similar to the, like it's just very like backbeat basically. So it has all these elements of familiarity that help it not feel like it's too much.
Do you ever think about me like I think about you? Guess not, I guess not, I guess not. Do you ever fantasize about a comeback first too? Why not, I mean maybe. Walk into the same bar, but have it all look good. Get to reminisce about the sex on your Tacoma's hood. Take me back to yours and say that I don't think we should, but then we do it anyway.
And lastly, in that final hook, we do layer a little bit more. Previously, we've had either this synth over here or this synth over here doing like the weird pattern that's created by the LFOs that we already talked about. This is the first time we have both of those together. And again, this is stacked with the bass. So like it's basically an extension of the bass. The only way in which they are a bit overwhelming, they are kind of in the same frequency pocket, right? They're both like really bright, shiny synths. But again, we're so familiar with both of them at this point that they don't really feel cluttered. So this is that last hook with kind of everything. It's super big, it's super dramatic. It's the end of the song. It kind of has to be.
Or is it just me?
Those are the 4 pillars. Let me know what you thought about this new structure of video. I'm trying something new here. Normally I do just kind of explain the song in order and just talk about the different sections, what I put into them. But I wanted to take a different approach this time because I feel like I wanted to like more clearly drive home the points that are to be extracted from the song, the like lessons that are to be learned. I kind of have been talking about these 4 pillars in all the previous videos in the process of breaking down those songs, but I wanted to make them a little more explicit. I'm kind of new-ish to the whole content creation thing, so we're fine-tuning, we're finessing, we're experimenting. And thank you for joining me on that experimentation. That's it, and much love. Bye.